What dictates your everyday decisions? Love or fear? I'm a yoga instructor and I'm pursuing a PhD in neuroscience. Both my career paths come from a curiosity to understand the brain or oneself. And I have realized that one recurrent pattern that holds me back the most is to do with fear. Like when I wouldn't raise my hand in school even when I knew the answers, or when I let my poster stand alone because I didn't show up at the exhibition, or when I did multiple rehearsals in my head to ask for a raise and then did not. I have fear of failure, so I don't try new things. I have fear of success, so I don't adopt a winning mindset. I have fear of loss of control, so I fail to receive help. The list can go on, but for the sake of time and my reputation, let's move on. My academic journey has taken me to live in 8 cities in 4 countries. Across geography and cultures, I've observed the same thing. Fear does not discriminate by age, gender, status, or income. Fear cripples most of us. Unless you are raised to be fearless, or you have experienced so much fear that you simply cannot afford the cost of it anymore. I fall into the second category. Fearlessness is an attribute associated with leadership. Everyone is leading someone a family, a team, a friendship, a community, or even just ourselves. We are all leaders, whether we identify as one or not. Yet, most of us are not taught how to handle fear. In fact, fear lives in our lives like ghosts. We avoid talking about them and feel exposed. Here, I need to make a confession. Most of my life, I identified as a follower, following the crowd, not wanting to be seen, and especially not heard. All because I allowed fear to dominate my world so much that how I lived were merely leftovers of how much my fears could tolerate. So, what exactly is fear? Fear is an unpleasant emotion arising from the anticipation of a danger, threat, or harm. From an evolutionary perspective, the ability to fear helps us survive. Our brains are highly specialized to keep us safe. Neuroscience tells us that the amygdala, the brain's alarm system, helps us identify threats. The hippocampus, the memory center, aids the amygdala to recall memories and context to provide evidence for our fears. Then, based on the brain mechanics, if the amygdala does not hijack the prefrontal cortex, then we elicit a conscious, rational response. But don't we all agree that that is not always the case? Fear can override our logic and keep us on survival instincts. Yoga also dwells on the subject of fear. A simple, straightforward, uncomplicated way to define the goal of practicing yoga is to know oneself and thereby control the mind. The poses, breath work, and meditation are tools to reach that goal. Yoga says we fear when we let our ego make us feel small, be ignorant of the reality, and be isolated from the consciousness and the rest of the world. We fear when we find separation between our true potential to that of our perceived potential. Yoga places fearlessness as the highest of virtues. In the Bhagavad Gita, Abhayam or fearlessness sits on top on the list of 26 divine qualities, even before truthfulness, nonviolence, and compassion. And it is not a random placement. Being fearless allows us to see the truth with clarity. The clarity lets us act with compassion, steadiness, and courage in the highest good for ourselves and others. Fearlessness is the foundation of all other virtues. Swami Vivekananda, modern day philosopher and yogi, called fear the root cause of all misery, and that the knowledge of self leads us on the path to fearlessness, mentioned in the Vedic scriptures. Neuroscience gives us facts, yoga gives us perspective and a deeper purpose. Both neuroscience and yoga suggest that changing our thought patterns is the key to release our fears. No matter which school you choose, the first common step is to find awareness. Oftentimes, we don't even acknowledge their existence. What I ask from you is to sit with your fears because they're not an enemy, but a friend who's here to offer you clarity. I want you to start by naming them. Is it fear of failure, success, uncertainty, judgments, or conflicts? Then I want you to ask 3 questions. How does fear show up in my life? Is it disguised in avoidance or procrastination? as confusion, or even as anger? 2. How does being fearful affect my personality? Have I become more resilient or have I lowered the standards of my living? Have I become a people pleaser? Have I stopped listening to my body? Is fear stealing from me the opportunities to connect and build? And 3. What safety, perhaps a false safety, do we get when we stay fearful? And what is the expiry date of that safety? A disclaimer here. You might need to ask these questions not just once, but over and over again. Abhyasa vairagyabhyam tannirodha. The fluctuations of mind come to stillness with repeated practice and detachment to the outcome. Allow your fears to get to know yourself. Take that information and then recalibrate your life. Because when we live fearlessly, we do not steal from the version of us that deserves to live. In a world where fear dominates our households, careers, economy, even the state of the world, we need responsible, fearless leaders. My hope is that you identify yourself as one. In the words of Marie Curie, nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more so that we may fear less. With that, I wish all of us fearlessness every single day. Thank you.